Test.
Again, welcome and nice. Thank you so much. You don't want to walk up there tonight?
I want to watch them out there.
I'm gonna go. Okay.
No, we can start. We can start.
Residents, visitors, and
Okay.
Interpreters are ready. Let them know you're gonna start in a minute.
Okay. I'm calling everybody to order and welcome to the regular meeting of the Police Advisory and Accountability Committee on Wednesday, February 21st, 2024. Lieutenant Eberly, would you call the roll, please?
Yeah.
Member Alm,
present.
Member Alvarez,
Present.
and Member Davidi is absent tonight. So in his place, Member Locks, you will be a voting member tonight. Member Nguyen is absent at the moment.
Welcome.
Welcome.
There you go.
And member Nguyen, sorry, we were right in the middle of roll call and you're right on time. I'll mark you as present. Member Ruiz. She is, I think, running late tonight. Member Tokolahi,
Present.
excuse me, Vice Chair Tokolahi. Chair Kamina,
Present.
Member Locks. And Member Valdez.
Present.
Okay, Lieutenant Eberly, do you want to tell us about interpretation and public comment, please?
I will. Thank you. I will first say this paragraph in English and then it will be translated in Spanish. Thank you, Chair Kamina. Before we begin, we would like to announce that tonight's meeting will include Spanish language simultaneous and consecutive interpretation provided by qualified interpreters on the Spanish channel. If watching on Zoom, you can join the Spanish channel by clicking on the interpretation icon in the Zoom toolbar. It looks like a globe. If you are attending in person and don't have access to the Zoom meeting from your mobile device, please come and see me and I will get you set up with a device so you can listen to the meeting in Spanish. As a reminder, we ask that everyone participating tonight speak slowly to allow our interpreter to effectively express your comments. Pablo.
Antes de comenzar, nos gustaría anunciar que la reunión del Comité de Contabilidad y Advisoría de Policías incluirá esta noche interpretación simultánea y consecutiva en español que será proporcionada por intérpretes calificados sobre el canal de español, desde ahorita hasta el fin de esta reunión. Si miran en Zoom, puede usted unirse al canal de español haciendo clic en el icono de interpretaciones que ahora aparece en la barra de funciones de Zoom, que aparece como un globo terráqueo. Y también hemos publicado el enlace de la reunión en YouTube. Si asiste en persona y tiene o no tiene acceso a la reunión de Zoom desde su dispositivo móvil, vengan a verme y le configuraré el dispositivo para que pueda escuchar la reunión en español. También, como un recordatorio, les pedimos a todos los participantes de esta noche que hablen lentamente para permitir que nuestros intérpretes expresen sus comentarios de manera efectiva.
This meeting tonight is being recorded and members of the public watch online or listen by phone by calling 669-444-9171 using the meeting ID 898-526-47245#. There will be an opportunity for public comment for those participating in person. Each person will have 2 minutes to provide their comments. We invite each of you to introduce yourselves by name before presenting your comments. We are offering closed captioning for this evening's meeting on Zoom. Select the live transcript button on Zoom to enable this feature.
The first item on the agenda is to approve the regular meeting minutes from the meeting of January 17th, 2024. I'm happy to answer, have any questions asked by the committee. Do any of the members of the committee have any questions about the minutes?
Madam Chair, do you make a motion to approve the minutes prior to the discussion?
Well, I think we can ask questions before we have a motion. So are there any questions?
I have discussion.
Okay, we'll get to that. Do any members of the public have any comments about the minutes?
Good evening. My, excuse me, my overall comment is that they're just inadequate. There were things that I understood, having attended the meeting, had been agreed to, and there's no reflection of that in these minutes. and absent us listening to the recording to see what that's all about. And I don't know quite what to do at this point in terms of explicit language, but we had talked, and Ms. Locks may talk about it, but we talked about, and I understood there had been an agreement to add community into the name was one thing. And none of that's reflected here, that there was any kind of a consensus thing reached about anything. So I just think the minutes need to be corrected and those issues need to be agreed on so we can move forward.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else from the public care to speak? Just to the topic of the minutes? Okay, well then we'll close public comment. I'm requesting a motion and a second to approve the minutes, followed by discussion. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Vice Chair Takalati. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Member Now, why don't we start the discussion with alternate member, your acting member this evening, Locks?
Madam Chair, thank you.
Sure.
To comment on the minutes, there are several items that were presented on the agenda that were prior to the drafting of the bylaws. And so some of this listed here needed to be placed above. It was like City Attorney Rob Epstein's presentation. That was not part of the feedback on the draft of the bylaws. That was prior to that, as listed in the agenda for that day. That all came before the discussion. So that needs to be corrected, as well as to what the community had mentioned under item B. It says the committee to provide comments on the work plan. It doesn't show the work plan. So I think those are the kinds of things that we would want to see in minutes to reflect what we did approve of going forward. Those are my comments.
Ms. Nguyen, do you have any comments on the minutes? Okay. Okay. Member
I have no further comment.
okay. And Member DeVito's not here. Member Wees is not here yet. Okay. Vice Chair Takalati?
I don't.
Okay. And did I get Miss Alvarez?
No,
Okay.
no comment.
The only comment I have is that I would ask staff if they have any response to Ms. Locke's questions. My understanding of minutes of meetings are that they're just sort of action minutes, but if you're concerned about the order, I'm looking for Ms. Pignon. Do you have any suggestions?
I would like to make another comment.
Oh.
And then if this is not usual procedures, perhaps staff can comment. Usual procedures would be if there is a comment about something that was not included in the minutes, then the motion is restated as to amend the minutes as, the motion is to amend the minutes. So I don't know if we're
Well, I
agreeing
think-
that needs to be added to or not, but that's
My-
usual procedure.
My understanding of the procedure is this, that there's a motion and then we have discussion, which we're having.
No, we have a second motion, second discussion.
Okay. And I'm asking staff if there is a comment from staff before we determine if we're going to amend the motion, right?
Mike is not, oh, there it is, sorry. In terms of the order of the meeting, what I will defer to Lieutenant Eberly in terms of the order. I'm not recalling when the comments were made by the city attorney regarding the Brown Act. I'll have to do a quick cross-check on the agenda. No, but just follow. We have the minutes. We have.
You know, Ms. Locks, would you mind returning to your seat, please? Ms. Locks. Thank you.
So what I would need to do is to cross-check the agenda to see where the city attorney's comments were. But we can certainly, if we could have a moment just to quickly do that,
Please.
unless
Thank you.
Lieutenant Eberly has that up. Let me
Y-
see.
Yeah, I do have the minutes up. I did the minutes, and I'm sorry if I don't understand your question, but it is in order of how we had the minutes or how we had the meeting. Chairperson Kamina introduced the bylaws, and then City Attorney Rob Epstein spoke, followed by City Manager Christina Lilovich.
Okay.
As I recall, Bob Epstein was giving us information about the Brown Act. He was clarifying that, and that was prior to. That was my understanding. He gave a whole presentation on that, and that was prior to
Okay.
us doing any of the other. Is that?
But that's reflected in the minutes. It's the way the minutes show is that Chair Kamina introduced the item, and by introducing the item, she just read off the title of the bylaws. And then you're correct. City Attorney Rob Epstein did give a presentation on the Brown Act, followed by City Manager Christina Lilovich giving a little bit more clarification as reflected in the minutes here.
Okay. Well, the motion as it stands is to approve the minutes. There's obviously discussion, but I think we should have a vote as to whether the motion should be approved or not. So do you want to call the roll, Lieutenant, or would you like me to do it?
I could call.
Okay.
Member Alm,
I approve as I stand.
Member Alvarez,
I approve.
Member Locks,
Disapprove.
Member Nguyen. Member Nguyen, do you mind pressing? Thank you.
I approve.
Vice Chair Tokalahi
Approved.
and Chair Kamina.
I approve. Okay, so the motion is passed
Please.
and the minutes stand approved.
No. Yes. Yeah. Yes, and anticipation. Yeah. Yes.
Hopefully we'll all be paying attention.
Well, she's asking me clarifying questions.
Okay. Okay, the next topic or the next agenda item is special presentation. So the police department is going to, I'm looking at Chief Spiller or as to orientation, structure, policy, and command staff introduction and
All of the above. You're totally okay to look at me. I'll be the guy. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thanks for the opportunity to share some information with you tonight. My comments tonight are focused on a high-level orientation, a bit of our structure, command structure, and introduction of key staff, which is representative of our command staff team. So the San Rafael Police Department, as you are all likely well aware, provides policing services, public safety services to the community 24/7, 365. The men and women of the organization serve the community by providing frontline public safety services on a 6-beat or patrol area configuration. Typically, the patrol function and our response to calls for service is supported by specialized assignments, including traffic investigations, homeless outreach, special investigations task force, and among others. Additional support services within the organization include an alternative response team, which is new. We're actually in the first year of a 3-year pilot for our alternative response team, which is has been branded as SAFE. specialized assistance for everyone. And this is a pre-licensed mental health clinician and an EMT who provide services to the vulnerable population in San Rafael, including individuals in mental health crisis and the homeless in many cases. Additional support services include dispatch and records. Dispatch obviously is that critical lifeline on the other end of the police radio and the other end of that 911 call when people call for assistance. Business services, community outreach, as well as personnel and training are additional examples of our support services. On average, the police department manages or facilitates about 44,000 calls for service in any given year. That varies within about 1,000, but on average, it's about 44,000 calls for service. These range from service calls, citizen assists, criminal investigations, traffic collision investigations, and other service requests. Among those 44,000 calls for service, 80% of those are initiated by the community. That's somebody calling for help. That's somebody flagging down a police officer. That's somebody calling to request assistance or service. The other 20% are officer initiated activities such as traffic stops or a pedestrian stop, that type of thing. The police department is divided into two major divisions. The first is the patrol division, which is the most visible within the organization. That's all uniform services. The second division is administrative services, and I'll let each of those division commanders introduce themselves and their areas of responsibility. So those two divisions are led by a police captain, or a division commander is another term for that role in the organization. Each of the captains are direct reports to the police chief, and each of the captains have middle managers or lieutenants that report to them. The lieutenants within the organization supervise and provide management oversight to patrol teams, specialized units, and things like that. So the lieutenants basically supervise the sergeants. With that, I'll introduce some of our key staff, and I'm going to start with our senior captain, Captain Glenn McElderry, who currently has management oversight for the Administrative Services Division.
Welcome.
Good evening. Again, my name is Glenn McElderry. I'm the Admin Services Captain. A little bit about me. I was hired by San Rafael PD March 1st of 1993. So next week will be 31 years. It's gone by really fast, but I did a lot of things throughout the department that were enjoyable, like motorcycle enforcement, property crimes detective, 15 years on a SWAT team, all the while promoting to corporal to sergeant to lieutenant to captain 10 years ago. In 2016, probably one of the most unexpected things I was assigned to do was see the day-to-day building of the Public Safety Center. So I worked with the architect and the construction team daily to answer questions that they had. And anyway, you can see the final product is pretty awesome. We're very happy. About my daily duties and what I oversee, like the chief said, if you divide the department in half, put the uniforms over here, I'm got everything pretty much that's not in uniform. So what is that? That's our investigations unit, our dispatch center, our call takers in our front office and the counter, property and evidence, community outreach, social media, media relations, budget, what else? Fleet management. There's a lot of equipment that goes there, the cadets. And one of the things you're going to hear from tonight is our professional standards unit, Sergeant Cordero, who oversees our training, our hiring, backgrounds, pushing all that work through, and works closely with my Lieutenant Eberly, who also works in the admin services side. That kind of covers what I do. I'll just end it with my wife and I have 4 adult children, and they've blessed us with 7 grandkids. And I will hand it off to Lieutenant Eberly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Captain. As you'll see, you'll start to notice a lot of, well, not a lot of, but repetition, and that's due to the chain of command. So I'll start off with just a brief introduction of myself. I was, my adult life started in the Army. I was a combat medic. After that, I was lucky enough to have a relative in the police department here at San Rafael who got me a job as a police cadet back in 2000. Finished my collegiate career, or almost did, at Sonoma State, got my bachelor's degree, eventually ending up getting my master's degree from University of San Diego. My career trajectory really followed the path of undercover work, gangs, narcotics, kind of a lot of proactive policing. I've done everything from investigations to foot beat right in the bicycle downtown. Every minute of it is a blast. I'm very, very blessed to have such a fortunate career. Right now, I'm the lieutenant in charge of our investigations unit, our professional standards unit, which Sergeant Cordero is part of that unit, which you'll hear from a little bit later tonight. I also oversee our dispatch, our records. I'm the SWAT commander, the SWAT lieutenant right now, with probably plenty of other things that I have forgotten. But I am, most importantly, a father of 2 young, beautiful daughters, husband to my wife. So I spend most of my time trying to get that work-life balance that we all are striving for. So in a nutshell, that is me.
One of the things he might have forgotten to mention is he's the staff liaison to the PAC. So you have a lot of FaceTime with Lieutenant Eberly.
Yes.
So with that, we'll shift from the Administrative Services Division to the Patrol Division, which is led by Captain Roy Leone. And I'll invite Captain Leone to come up.
Good evening. So again, my name is Roy Leone, and I am the Captain of Operations for the San Rafael Police Department. I was born and raised in a small town of Willits, California, home of the skunk train, heart of Mendocino County. Both my parents are from Guanajuato, Mexico. And growing up, I spent the majority of my time playing sports, played football, baseball, and basketball for Willits High School. I graduated from Willits High School in 1995. I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. I honorably served in the United States Marine Corps from 1995 to 1999. I got my first opportunity to work for the San Rafael Police Department as a parking enforcement officer in the year 2000. After working as a parking enforcement officer for about a little over a year, I was fortunate enough to attend the Napa Valley Police Academy. I have been a sworn police officer since 2002. And throughout my career, I wanted to learn as much as possible and be part of a team and get to know the community as best as I could. Therefore, I took advantage of all the teams and units and specialty assignments that the police department offers. Therefore, I pretty much was involved or part of every team and unit that the police department has. Now, on my time off, I really enjoy coaching youth sports. I have 3 kids and very, very happily married. I am a very proud Terra Linda resident for the last 21 years. And I spend a lot of my time coaching at Terra Linda High School. As the operations captain, like the chief says, I oversee pretty much all of the uniformed officers. I oversee the crisis response unit, which includes the special weapons and tactics team, the crisis negotiation team. I oversee the special operations unit as well as the SAFE team. And more importantly, there are 4 patrol teams in the police department. We have 2 patrol day shift patrol teams and then 2 night shift patrol teams. With that, again, I want to thank you guys so much for all your time and for all the time that you're taking for this very important responsibility that you have. With that, I'd like to introduce to you the day shift lieutenant, which is Lieutenant Todd Berenger. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Todd Berenger. I grew up here in San Rafael, California. I was a product of our San Rafael school system, from Sun Valley to Davidson to San Rafael High School. Go Dogs. From there, I went on to UC Santa Barbara. And then after college, I didn't know what to want to do with myself. And so I joined the National Guard, and I joined as a counterintelligence agent, and then started my career at San Rafael Police Department in 2002. September 11th happened, and I ended up getting activated and deployed over to Afghanistan for a year. When I returned, fortunately, San Rafael took me back in and put me through the police academy again. And I've been here ever since, going on 22 years. During that time, I've held a lot of ancillary assignments. Half my time is spent in investigations as a property crimes detective, violent crime detective, as a sergeant, and then as a lieutenant. I currently oversee our patrol division, day shift patrol. So everything in uniform, everything day shift, handling 911 calls. I also oversee our field training officer program. So any new officers that come in, that graduate from the police academy, they'll first go through a 5-month program in field training. And so I oversee that program. I also oversee the SAFE team and work hand in hand with their director and their staff. And that's pretty much about it. I will turn it over to my counterpart on night shift, and that's Alex Holm.
Good evening. My name is Alex Holm. I did not grow up here in San Rafael. I grew up in Wisconsin, but I moved here shortly after high school and started my adult life here at the San Rafael Police Department a little over 20 years ago as a police cadet. I live here in San Rafael now with my husband, and enjoy working for the city of San Rafael and living in the community that I work. My main role is overseeing the night shift patrol teams, both weekend and daytime, or weekend and weekday night shift patrol teams. In addition to that primary responsibility, I'm also in charge of our traffic unit, our crisis negotiation team, our marine or our boat unit, and many other technology projects that come up here at the police department. So I'd like to thank you all for being here, and I appreciate the time.
Good evening. My name is Carl Huber. I'm a lieutenant with the police department. I'm currently serving in a support or admin role to our patrol division lieutenants. I also oversee the special operations unit, which deals with the impacts of homelessness in our community. I started my career in Southern California for the city of Indio as a volunteer reserve in the year 1991. I worked my way through that assignment and also was hired by the city of Cathedral City as a police officer in 1995. I found myself up here in the Bay Area in 2002. I found myself at San Rafael Police Department in 2006. I've had the opportunity to serve in a variety of assignments and in a variety of ranks during my time here. I've been able to serve as a school resource officer, a patrol officer, field training officer, an investigator. I've also served as the supervisor for the investigations unit, the supervisor for the special operations unit until recently when I was promoted to lieutenant. I currently oversee the special operations unit in my role as a lieutenant. I want to say thank you for your time and dedication to this cause and to your dedication to our community.
I think that brings it back to me, your police chief. So we've had the opportunity to meet and talk a little bit, but in terms of my background, have to go a little further back for me. I actually started in the 80s. So I grew up in Cupertino, California, back when it was apricot orchards and cherry fields, but now it's all apple, not apple trees, it's just apple. I started my law enforcement career as a police cadet in the Mountain View Police Department in 1987. And a short while after that, I moved to San Diego, where I went to the police academy. I worked for the city of San Diego for just shy of 3 years. And then moved home. I actually came back where all my family was, all my friends were, and lateraled from the San Diego Police Department to the Mountain View Police Department. Went back to Mountain View as a police officer. Spent just shy of 12 years in Mountain View, where I served as an agent or a corporal. I served as a sergeant there. I managed special events. I was the labor union president. A lot of diverse experiences in my time in Mountain View. Had a unique opportunity to lateral again. I'm the guy that's been in 5 different police departments. So had an opportunity to lateral again, but this was a promotion to lieutenant. I left Mountain View and became a lieutenant in the city of Pleasanton. I was a lieutenant for 1 year and then was promoted to captain. I served both similar structure to the city of San Rafael, but in Pleasanton, I served both sides of the house, both administrative services as well as patrol. I was a captain for about 9 years until 2011, when I was appointed as Pleasanton's 6th police chief. And I served Pleasanton as their chief for nearly a decade, and then left thinking I was done with public service and was going to transition to a different type of work. But this thing called COVID came along, which kind of derailed my my private sector job opportunity. And I watched a lot of what was going on in our society from the perspective of law enforcement and the misdeeds that were perpetrated by members of law enforcement, and the stress and the environment at that time made me feel like maybe I left a little too soon, and actually went back to law enforcement leadership. I served the city of Menlo Park for 8 months under contract when their chief had retired. I served to support the organization with a chief's recruitment, managing the organization, and doing a department assessment. While I was in Menlo Park, the city of San Rafael police chief's job came open, and I gave it a shot. I tossed my hat in the ring, and that was 3 years ago. So my 3rd anniversary with the city of San Rafael will be mid-March. And that brings us to today. While working as a policing professional, I received my associate's degree at De Anza College. While working, I earned my bachelor's degree from the University of San Francisco, and then went straight to St. Mary's, where I received my bachelor's degree, and continued my professional development in the area of law enforcement leadership. So that's a little bit of my history. And as you could tell from the introductions of the rest of our command staff, I think you'll see a reflection of commitment, dedication to this organization, with a lot of long-standing service, career-long service with the members of the command staff that introduced themselves. So with that, I'll transition to policy. The last comments that I'll make are centered on policy. Our guiding document, our framework for our operations, is our police department policy manual. Our police department policy document provides guidance and direction to all personnel within the police department. The police department policy manual covers all department operations. It also covers equipment use, support services, personnel rules, and other areas. The San Rafael Police Department policy manual sets forth procedures that are reflective of state and federal laws, and also department-specific policies. The police department policy manual is actually managed and administered by a third-party contractor that we utilize. That firm is known as Lexipol. Lexipol is a public safety policy management firm, and our policy management contract with Lexipol provides policy administration, which specifically benefits our organization in 3 very specific ways. Number one is that our policies are always up to date and reflective and compliant with legislative mandates and the current law. Policies are also reflective of best practices within policing. And it also provides agency-specific modifications for the way we do business here. Example of that would be, specialized assignment rotation. A typical assignment would be 3 years. Those types of things are all codified in our policy, and that might be different from Central Marin Police Department, Novato Police Department. So there are some department-specific policies as well. All of our policies are regularly updated, and updates are all pushed to every member of the organization when the policy changes. So a department member is notified of a policy change, and that it goes to each member of the organization, and the department member is required to acknowledge by attestation that they understand the policy and they have received the policy. Department personnel are also provided with regular daily training bulletins, or what we call DTBs. Cops are all about the acronyms. Thank you. So department training bulletins are also part of the policy administration contract. So the daily training bulletins are provided to staff across the entire organization. Covers all areas of the policy manual, and these daily training bulletins would be considered by law enforcement practitioners to be solid, reliable, ongoing, and verifiable. So our policies have been and remain readily available to the public. It has been and continues to be published on our website. There's a portal that's labeled transparency, and you could find all of the department's policies readily available through that transparency portal on our police department's website. So I think that covers a little bit of our organization, a little bit of our structure, our command staff, and how we manage our policy. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Well,
Chair Kamina, can I just have a second to toggle the interpreters?
Of course.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. We're good to go.
It's part of your job. Thank you all for coming this evening and sharing your insights and information with us. I appreciate it. Now would be the time for me to ask if there are any public comments, to open that on any of the topic about police policy or the information that was presented just now. And while she's doing that, can the minutes reflect that Ms. Ruiz was able to attend? Thank you.
Yes.
Hello again, everyone. Heidi, nice to see you all. I appreciate the presentation, and I know that people who work in law enforcement are also our community members. This command staff is overwhelmingly white and male. It's not a surprise to anyone, or appearance-wise. There's definitely white privilege there. And I think that as we go into talking about policies and procedures, research shows that people are more likely to hire people who remind them of themselves, who they want to have a beer with. These are the people that are setting policy at the top level. So as we talk about diversifying, there's also overwhelmingly military experience, which can also contribute to post-traumatic stress disorder, to dehumanizing people so they can kill them during combat, which can also be tied to some of the dehumanizing that brought us here around Julio Jimenez Lopez and what happened to him. That would have never happened if the people that responded saw him as a dad, a brother, a neighbor, an uncle. So I just want us to think about part of this group is about culture and changing culture. I have no doubt that everyone who works for the police department is there because they care about the community, and they want to make a positive difference. And community input really needs to go into that to make that happen. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Again, Stephen Bingham from Terra Linda, and I second what Heidi said to thank the command staff for being here and for the job that they generally do well. My one comment is more a question, and I don't know when it's appropriate for the committee to receive this information, but reference was made by several people to the police academy. And I think that it would be helpful, and I don't know if tonight is the night to do it, it would be helpful to learn more about that, the academy, specifically the one, I assume there's just one academy that most San Rafael police officers go to. Because as Heidi said, our concern in the community is police culture. And that begins to be formed in the academy. So my view is that it would be important for all of us to understand better what is that police academy about? How does it work? How is the training done? Is police culture as a concept addressed? So again, I don't know if that could be done while some of the staff who attended the academy could talk about it, or at some other time, but I would like to see that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Hanya. Live in
Hanya?
Santa, Hanya,
Thank you.
live in San Rafael, grew up in San Rafael. Two comments I wanted to make. One, that the presentation included a lot of technical information, which felt difficult to follow if you don't have any law enforcement experience, which pretty much nobody on the committee should have law enforcement experience if it's going to effectively hold the police department accountable. So it seems like this information will be difficult to understand without perhaps some kind of visual or presentation or graphic, which I assume already exists. I don't know if the members of the committee were given something that we weren't able to see as the public, but it seems like something important for the committee members to be able to refer back to in the future. Another thing I wanted to say is just that I noticed that pretty much every single officer, when they came to talk about their position, also talked about their background and their family and stuff like that. And I just want to remind everyone that we're here to learn about the structure of the police department, and we're here to hold the police department accountable. This is, after all, the Police Advisory and Accountability Committee. This is not coffee with a cop. So it just seemed really out of place to have all of this personal information in a space we're supposed to learn about the structure and the chain of command, not the individual officers. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public would like to speak? Well, then we'll close public comment on this topic. Let me see. I've skipped a page. The next agenda item is, well, I should ask if people have comments, if on the committee have any questions of the, thank you. So I'm still getting it. Why don't we just go down the line? Do you have any questions, Ms. Valdez?
No, just I'm grateful to meet them and know a little bit about them.
Okay.
Thank
Just so we be clear, so first we have questions, then we can have discussion later. Just, I'm learning, right?
No questions, sorry.
Ms. Alvarez, do you have any questions or of the chief or any of the presenters?
No.
Okay.
questions. No question.
No question? Vice Chair?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Mr. Member
I have a lot.
Okay.
I don't know if I should. So both on the policy, we were given 1,000 and also the other packet item selection process police officer. Should I reserve that for following the next presentation?
Yeah, I think so. So Sergeant Cordero will be presenting on that specific policy. That policy that's in your packet is a great example of the contents of our policy manual if you haven't looked at it online. But those two specific questions that you made reference to would best be suited for Sergeant Cordero's presentation.
I'll reserve.
Oh, okay. Ms. Nguyen, do you have any questions? Ms. Laux? Okay. So then it would be time for us to, we've gone through the questions, we've gone through public comments, and so I actually have a question, and it's about the SAFE program. Can't remember which one of you spoke about it, but I'm interested in hearing just a tiny bit more, if possible, about how that team works.
I'll be happy to
Okay.
answer that question. And if I miss anything or get it
Yeah.
totally wrong, I'm sure one of my lieutenants will
Okay.
jump up and come up. But yeah, so we are in our first year of a 3-year pilot for the SAFE program.
Yeah.
Some of the background here is reflective of society and our community in particular who wants to see alternative resources for people who are in mental health crisis. As an example, a police officer is not necessarily always the best resource for somebody in that who's in a mental health crisis or somebody who's experiencing homelessness and may need some support. As I earlier referenced, the SAFE team really is dedicated to the most vulnerable in our community. So we launched in about March of last year. So we're preparing an update for City Council, which will be heard in March, and it'll cover the 1-year activity. This group is deployed every day of the calendar year from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And they serve the San Rafael community under contract. So we are in a 3-year contract with a nonprofit, which is known as Petaluma People Services. They provide similar services in other communities in the North Bay, including Cotati, Petaluma, and others. So this model is becoming more mainstream, and there are models that are similar to it, but take a little different approach throughout organizations, throughout California. Did I get?
Are they available 24/7?
So they're available every day of the year, but from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Mm.
One of the elements that we're currently working on is what a potential expansion would look like, and whether that would be 24 hours or whether we would kind of overlap the resources during the peak time or the peak activity. So all of this is based on the analysis of calls for service and how to alleviate a police officer from having to go to a call that's not necessarily appropriate for a police officer, or how to keep fire apparatus in service and available for other emergency calls if the SAFE resource can handle that.
Thank you so much. So if there are no more questions now, we would have comments. If I'm just going to go, no comments.
And just thank you to all of them for being here, and I'm glad to know a little bit of every one of them.
Thank you. I can see Ms. Alvarez. Do you have any comments?
No.
Okay. Ms. Ruiz?
No.
Okay. Vice Chair Takalai?
I do. I wanted to respect both sides, both the officers. I want to say thank you for the services. Thank you for the work that you put in. I also wanted to thank the public comments, sort of like a reminder to us, why we're here. As a human being, and this is one of the core values that I have all the time. My father served back home, And if he was still alive, he would slap me on the face for not following his footsteps. For real. But I see it in a different way. I respect him. I respect the work he did for the country. And it's the same respect that I have for you guys. I have the same respect to the folks in the community, folks who doesn't know both sides. And I think all of us here is a commitment to learning about both sides. In order for us to do our job well, I wanted to learn about both sides. Yes, we all humans. We all have, we put on the uniforms and we have policies. We have stuff to live by. You do your job, I'll do mine. We meet in the middle, but I want to learn about what you guys do, where you guys come from, background. I also want to learn about the communities, and that's the main thing for me. I represent the communities, but I also want to see the big picture. I do not want to walk into a room to work with a whole bunch of people trying to serve something or trying to put someone in a position to defend themselves without knowing points, without knowing why I'm holding them accountable. I thank you for the public, for all the comments. And if you're watching online, please send us stuff. We want to hear why. I'm all about learning. I'm all about meeting in the middle to find answers. But I also want to learn about both sides. I don't just show up and start pointing fingers, because I'm not going to do that. We will get there. We will get to the point of pointing fingers once I learn about the other side. Give me reasons. Show me the pictures, and I will start pointing fingers. I'm not going to walk in and expect people to let me okay, point at that person. I'm like, who is she, or who is he? What did they do? No. I want to find out more. And this is the platform for us to do that. And that's just from me. Massive respect for what you guys are doing. Yeah. And I encourage the public to give us more. We're here for you guys. There's a channel of communications, send emails, to Scott. Scott will provide all of those to us, and we are happy to sit down and discuss. We're happy to sit down and talk more. So thank you.
Well, since I happen to be sitting next in order, I'll call upon myself to say, I actually thank you for your comments, because they were very well said. We appreciate all of you being here. I see this also as our time of getting educated. Perfectly said that if we're going to hold a group accountable, we need to learn about them. So there's not much more to say after you said that. So thank you. Member any comments?
Thank you for everyone for coming out here. I appreciate getting to know the leadership team, to the community. Thank you for showing up every time. I appreciate you and your feedback and your comments. I take it to heart.
Ms. Nguyen?
I don't have any.
No? Member Locks?
Did I bring it? Can you hear me? Okay. I really appreciate the presentation from all of the officers. And I'm really delighted to know that there is an officer that lives within my community. Thank you very much for introducing yourself, sir. I live in Terra Linda. And now when I see you in Safeway, I will come up to you and say hi. And I do appreciate there was a rapid response to an incident we had on the 12th in Terra Linda. So I do appreciate the work that you do and the thoroughness. But yes, we're here to learn about all of what you do. I appreciate that the community had mentioned the academy, how you are trained, how you respond to situations is one of the concerns that we have from the incident that was, that initiated the forming of this committee. And so knowing that our officers live within the neighborhood, they're accountable to the neighborhood, as well as us learning about what that's all about that you do and how you do it. And I appreciate that this year, I'm going to be spending a lot of time learning about you and learning what you do. And I do want to know what the topics and I would say the means and the ways the academy actually teaches you. Because culture is learned activity, and culture can also be a change learning. And that's one of the things that the community has brought forth to us is how we might make the change within the culture of the policing as it relates to interactions within the community. I thank you all, sir and ma'am.
Thank you so much. Are there any comments from staff about any of the questions that were asked?
I was just briefly, I was going to say that on the work plan in May, we will have the director from the SAFE team come in and give a very in-depth presentation on alternative responses.
Thank you. That is wonderful.
Also, kind of to the same point, when we discuss the next wave of elements for your work plan, we can certainly include post certifications, the basic academy, all of the learning domains that are covered. Some of what you'll hear tonight is how we get people to the door.
Right.
After going through the door and then heading to the academy would be that next phase. So we could certainly create information for the committee that's responsive to that comment if the committee wants to pursue that when we discuss the next work plan.
Well, thank you so much. So I think now we accept the report. Is that correct? Is Ms. Angela?
Oh, not for this item, since it was a special presentation.
Oh,
There's,
sorry.
it's
Okay.
not a report, but for the next item, you will accept,
Thank you.
formally accept.
We're all still learning. And so the next agenda item is the San Rafael Police Department recruitment and selection. And I believe that's Sergeant Cordero
And again, my apologies. While she sets up, I'm going to just toggle the interpreters.
and the interpreter, of course. Do you have a question?
Yes, sorry, Darlene, didn't bring her package, so she will know what funds.
Oh, she needs, thank you.
Oh, Chair Committee, we are ready to go.
Sergeant Cordero, excuse me.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for having me. My name is Rhonda Cordero. I'm a sergeant with the San Rafael Police Department. I'm currently assigned to the Professional Standards Unit, which is under the direct supervision of Lieutenant Scott Eberly and Captain Glenn McEldry, who oversees our administration services. Part of my duties include the management of hiring and background. I'm also the training manager, so I'm responsible for managing our in-house training for both sworn and non-sworn employees. I'm also in charge of our crime scene investigations unit as the supervisor, so I manage that team as well. And lastly, I'm in charge of our recruitment team and efforts. And tonight, or a little bit about myself. I grew up in Petaluma, California. I graduated from Petaluma High School in 1991. I continued my education at California State University, Sacramento, where I earned my degree in criminal justice. After I graduated in 95, I went back home, moved in with my folks, and they supported my decision to pursue a career in law enforcement. At that time, I started the testing process to get into the Santa Rosa Junior College Police Academy. During the mid-90s, law enforcement was a career that was sought after. It was very competitive back then. So I was one of 10 that got selected as a self-support or self-sponsored recruit. So I entered that up next an upcoming academy and graduated in December of 1995. I was hired by the Marin County Sheriff's Office as a deputy sheriff. And I spent 2.5 years with the Sheriff's Office, primarily in the custody division, before I lateraled over to the San Rafael Police Department. I've been with the San Rafael Police Department since August of 98. During my career here at the police department, I worked patrol. I was a field training officer, a background investigator. I then did 2 terms in our investigations unit. My first term was as a sexual assault detective and child abuse detective. And then my second term was as the violent crimes or crimes against persons detective. During my career, I promoted to corporal, I think around 08, 09. And then I recently promoted to the position of sergeant in May of 2021. I'm very thankful for the opportunities the San Rafael Police Department has offered me. I am a mother of 2 adult boys. One's graduated from college and one's about to in June. So I'm very proud of them. And I'm thankful for having a career that I can balance my personal life with. So that's a little bit about me and my history here. Tonight, I put together a presentation, which is an overview of our recruitment and selection plan to present to the committee. We're going to cover what current challenges we're facing in law enforcement when it comes to recruitment and selection, what we're doing in regards to recruitment and selection. I'm going to cover what our current staffing looks like, an overview of that as well, and concluding that with our selection process. As you may know, across the United States, law enforcement agencies are facing unprecedented staffing shortages and challenges when it comes to recruitment and retention of quality candidates. Some factors that are affecting our recruitment and retention are the increases in retirements that we're seeing, resignations, and attrition. We're seeing fewer applicants as law enforcement has become I guess less attractive as a career. We're seeing a lot fewer applicants coming in that are qualified candidates. Negative attitudes and perceptions and portrayals towards law enforcement and the police. The lengthy hiring processes. When I went through the process in the mid-90s, it could take up to 6 months to get through a background investigation. And that's just with this newer generation, this younger generation. They really want something that's going to be more expedited. They're not willing to really wait 6 months before getting hired. So we're looking at alternatives to that. Low entry level salaries. Although we're not the lowest paid in the area, we're certainly not the highest. So it becomes very competitive when you're starting out with the low entry level salaries. And increased competition between police agencies. We're all suffering the same when it comes to recruitment and retention. We're all looking at the same applicant pool. So we're trying to figure out ways to make San Rafael more attractive and attract those quality candidates to serve our community here. In this next slide, it's an overview of our current staffing these numbers are as of February 1st of 2024. The San Rafael Police Department is budgeted for 68 swarm positions, and of those 68, we have 58 that are filled. As you can see by the graph, from the rank of sergeant on up to the chief of police, we're fully staffed there. There's no vacancies. So focusing on the corporal and officer position, we are currently have 5 corporal positions that are vacant and 5 officer positions that are vacant for obviously a total of 10. So for our size department, to be down to 10 positions, we do feel the effects of that. Our patrol staffing is our primary goal, to keep our patrol officers in the streets fully staffed. So there's times where we're running at minimum or below minimum. And unfortunately, we've had to roll up our motor unit, our special operations unit, and even our investigations team, which is down to 4 detectives. And ideally, we like to have 6. And this next slide, this is our 6-year historical data from 2018 to 2023. We've had some good years and we've had some not so good years. In the past 6 years, we've hired 41 sworn officers, but we've also lost 51. So we're in a negative 10. 2020, we did fairly well by hiring 10 and lost only 4. But last year in 2023, as you can see by the chart, we lost 17 sworn positions. And I don't think I've seen that number in my time here, which is, I didn't say that. I've had my 28-year anniversary in December. 25 plus here. Moving on to this next chart, Marin County is comprised of 10 law enforcement agencies, the sheriff's office being the largest in the county. We fall right behind them at number 2 as being the largest with 68 sworn. Currently down 10, which is about 14.7% of our full-time employees. We also have 5 officers that are either out on that are currently on light duty or out on long-term injury. We have 5 that are currently in the academy. 3 are in the Fresno City College Academy and 2 are in the Santa Rosa Junior College Public Safety Training Center. So we do utilize other academies, and we have a couple going into the Contra Costa County Academy starting on Monday. So these numbers are going to change in the next week, but currently 5 are out due to long-term injury or light duty, 5 at the academy, and 5 are currently on our FTO program. So a total of 25, which is 36.7% of our full-time employees, are not working as solo officers. And just to kind of put that into perspective a little bit, from the hiring stage to get you through the FTO program. Our FTO program, I think as Lieutenant Behringer said, is 5 months long. The academy can either be 5 months or 6 months, depending on which academy that you're going to. And then the hiring process can take about another 4 months. We've got some quicker turnarounds, but you're not going to see a solo officer, but from the time that they're going through the hiring process and completing the field training program, that solo officer it's going to take a little over a year. So I hope that gives you a little bit of perspective on the timeline that it takes to get these officers hired and through the FTO program. And this next slide, this is again stats from February 1st of this year. And this is a breakdown of our gender and race at the police department. And as you can see, the number of male sworn has decreased over the 10-year period by 5%. So currently we're at 80% of our sworn staff are male, and our female staff has increased by 5%, with a current percentage of 20% of our workforce. So you can see in that graph that we are making progress. We are trying to honestly, in the position I've been in for the last 2.5 years and being at the department so long, we're doing well with recruiting female officers. So I think we're heading in the right direction. As far as our race breakdown at the department, specifically looking at our Caucasian and Hispanic, or those sworn officers that identify as Caucasian or Hispanic, again, this is over a 10-year period. You can see by the chart that currently we're at 68.9% of sworn officers that identify as Caucasian, which is getting closer to what our city population identifies as at 55.8%. So we're seeing a decrease in the Caucasian identity. And then as far as our Hispanic sworn officers, in 2014, we were at 7.9%. We currently have 15 sworn officers that identify as Hispanic. And you can see the difference. We're looking at 17.5%. Again, it's getting us closer to our city population, which is 32.5. So we're seeing improvements, but there's always room to grow in those aspects. So we certainly want to represent the city or be reflective of the community that we're serving. Another factor that's affecting our recruitment is our anticipated retirements. So in the next 3 to 5 years, we're looking at 12 retirements, which is 20.7% of our workforce. So in recruitment and hiring, we're constantly trying to anticipate those upcoming vacancies and trying to stay ahead of it or keep on track and keeping them filled. Some internal factors affecting our recruitment. Our employees are our bread and butter. They're the ones that are going out there and doing the recruitment. They're referring friends, family who may want a career change. They're out in our community on a daily basis on calls for service or at community engagements and really getting to know folks, and their efforts have been yielding us good applicants. As far as our recruitment budget, we're always looking for advertising options that will yield the best results, where we're going to get more bang for our buck kind of thing. So we're doing different things. We've come up with a recruitment video recently as part of a project, which unfortunately it's not going to be able to see it tonight, but it'll be posting on our website soon. So I can't wait for the committee and community members to be able to see that. But that's our focus, is to try to look at ways to get San Rafael's name out there in our brand. The lengthy testing and hiring process, in the professional standards unit, we're doing things, that are working well for us, that to help, lessen that 6-month background investigation to maybe, 3 to 4 months, which has been beneficial for us. We're also offering regular testing as part of the process. Obviously, we're screening applications that come in to see those that are meeting our requirements, putting together oral boards on a regular basis instead of waiting months. And we're also starting to proctor the Pellet B test, which is the post entry-level law enforcement test battery. Basically, it's a test that is taken is a reading and writing comprehension test. Some external factors that have some majorly impacted recruitment and retention is attitudes, perceptions, and portrayals of law enforcement and police today. We've had some high-profile cases that have been in the media and have shed a negative light, and where we have lost some trust with the community members. So we're doing our best to tackle those challenges, being more transparent and humanizing the badge. Another major impact is our pension reform. The California Public Employees Pension Reform Act, also known as PEPRA, has led to a decline in applicants, and those hired on or after January 1 of 2013, they have to work longer for less compensation at retirement age. In addition, we have many agencies, including San Rafael, have classic PERS members paying into their own pension, which has also led to earlier retirements. Shifting in to the selection process for peace officers, it starts with the recruiting phase. As being in charge of our recruitment team, we're attending numerous events throughout the year, job fairs and community engagements. We're really trying to get out, make connections, and get San Rafael Police Department's name out there and make those connections. We also have recruit training officers that are up at the police academy, specifically the Santa Rosa Junior College Public Safety Center. So they're a good resource for us as well. They're representing the Santa Fe Police Department. Each academy typically has some self-sponsored or non-affiliated candidates. Those are recruits like myself when I went through, who are paying their own tuition, paying for the uniforms. They're not hired by an agency. They're putting themselves through. So that's also a good resource for us because they can see those recruits that are non-affiliated and see if any of them would be qualified applicants for Santa Fe Police Department. What's really working for us in our PSU division is our concierge treatment. This generation really doesn't like to wait. They are impatient. They submit their application. We're screening them. Lieutenant Eberly is quick to reach out to those individuals either by phone or by email. And this is feedback I'm getting from the applicants as they're going through the process. I'm like, well, why Santa Fe Police Department? Why not, any other jurisdiction? And they're like, you guys are quick to respond. I felt like a person, not a number. You're very responsive. We'll use phone call, email, text message, which I'm not a fan of, but that's this generation sometimes. Lieutenant Eberly will invite them to meet them in person, give them a tour of our police department, which we're super proud of. We love our new building. And then he will coordinate ride-alongs for those applicants. They really get to get in the patrol car with the officer, ask any questions they may have. They get to see the city and the calls for service and the level of activity that we have. And a lot of the feedback is, you guys I love the camaraderie that Santa Fe Police Department has, and it feels like family here. So I really feel like that's working for us personally at this point. As far as the hiring phase, the testing process is governed by the Commission on Peace Officers Standards and Training, also known as POST. So POST sets the minimum standards for the testing process and selection process for the state of California. All agencies, law enforcement agencies, have to abide by those minimum standards. You can't go below those minimum standards, but you, as a department or agency, can, have requirements like as far as education. We don't require a degree, but it's preferred here. So you can't go below what the minimum standards are set by POST, is what I guess I'm trying to say. The testing process will start out by your application that you submit. We'll put together the oral board, which is made up of typically three oral board members. 2 are usually your internal employees, and we have been, as the third panel, going to a community member. In fact, Daniel is one of our oral board panels of recent. They usually last about 30 minutes in a series of questions. And if they are successful at that phase, they will move on to receive a personal history statement, which is emailed from Lieutenant Eberly to that applicant. It's about a 33-page document. It's very detailed, and we're going to want it in. It typically covers your personal information, your family, your references, your military background, if you have any, your credit, your DMV, your current and previous employers, any narcotic or drug-related questions, and criminal activity questions. It's very detailed and lengthy. Once you submit your completed personal history statement, which usually comes to myself or Lieutenant Eberly, I will set up a secondary interview. That interview will last about an hour to an hour and a half, and I'm one-on-one with that candidate, and we'll go over that PHS page by page by page. I'm just looking for accuracy, and if they left anything out, sometimes they don't answer the question correctly, or they misunderstand it. I'm looking for anything. Basically, at the beginning of that secondary interview, we cover anything that might be disqualifying, basically, when we're going through that personal history statement. So I tell them it's important that they're honest, that they don't purposely omit anything, and they're not lying about anything that will get discovered in the background investigation. Once that interview is done, I will type that up and it'll get sent to the captain and the chief of police, a summary of that interview. And then we'll schedule an interview for the candidate to meet with Chief Spiller. Once he's completed that interview, Chief Spiller will give us either the go-ahead to push this candidate into a background process. They'll come in, I'll do a live scan, which is their fingerprints and waivers, and take a photograph and assign their background investigator. We contract out for our background investigations. We don't do them in-house anymore. And I work really well with the background investigators that we have contracted with thus far. I provide them all the documentation as far as a PHS, secondary summary, and photographs and waivers. Again, those backgrounds are pretty lengthy. It just depends on a person's life experience and how long those can take. We've been pretty successful in getting some turned around in 4 to 6 weeks, but it could take up to a couple of months sometimes. Once the background investigation is complete and we've got all the required documents that are required by post, I'll review that background investigation and it gets submitted to Captain McElderry for review and up to the Chief of Police. At that point, Chief Spiller will review the background investigation and offer, if everything looks good, he will offer a conditional job offer to the candidate, at which point that pushes them into a mandatory psychological and medical examination. And once they've completed those two things, they would be hired.
Sergeant Cordero, I apologize. We're just having some translation issues. Give me 1 second. Pedro, if you can hear me, you might be muted. Pedro, can you start talking? Pedro, you just muted yourself again. Okay, you're unmuted. Go ahead and talk. All right. I don't hear you, Pedro, so we'll have to switch to Pablo and we'll see if we can figure out Pedro in a second. I apologize, Sergeant Cordero. Pablo, are you ready to go? Okay, Sergeant Cordero, I'm sorry. Pablo is ready to go. Should be back up and running.
Okay. I just wanted to revisit the psychological examination, just so I have an understanding that that's testing for a candidate's emotional and mental suitability, and also hopefully free of any bias toward, any type of bias. And also your medical examination is obviously your physical fitness to do the duties of a peace officer. Some recruitment strategies that the San Rafael Police Department is currently using, or our efforts. Again, we're attending job fairs and career fairs. Kind of start out in our local high schools at their career fairs, and our local universities, College of Marin, Sonoma State University, Cal State East Bay. We're kind of all over looking for those opportunities. What's really worked is our cadet program. So we're really looking at college age students and recruiting them because
Sergeant Cordero, I apologize. We're having problems with our translation. Would you mind calling a 5-minute recess?
We will have a 5-minute recess so that we can work on the interpretation. Thank you.
Don't worry about it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's you. Yeah, so it's gonna be. It's gonna be. Last time, but we're on the last line, so it's gonna be, Spanish is gonna come over the loudspeaker. Remember how it's something like 4 sentences?
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
I would remove, yeah, and interpreting altogether.
Oh, how do I do that?
Be there. Spend a lot of time. I know, I get along with it. I'll remember you. Yes. Absolutely.
Check to see.
So
Pablo has to unmute.
Pablo and Pedro, we're gonna operate on this channel consecutive interpreting. So the English presenter or the presenter speaking English will pause after a sentence or two, and you will have to come on this channel. You guys will both stay on this channel. And you can switch yourselves every 10 or 15 minutes. If you desire, we can also continue to talk and communicate through text. So it looks like Pedro will be first. And I'm going to turn it back. You can hear me, Pedro?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can.
Awesome.
So I'm going to turn it back over to Chair Kamina to start the meeting back up.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, we are reconvening our meeting for this evening, and do you need to explain about the translation issue?
Vamos a reiniciar con nuestra junta y ¿quieres explicar acerca de la interpretación?
Now all Spanish translation will be consecutive on this channel. It will no longer be the Spanish channel.
Okay. One of the questions to staff is, do we know if we have people online?
Una de las preguntas que tenemos es, ¿sabemos si tenemos gente en línea?
There are people online, but this is the main channel, so they will be able to hear the English and the Spanish translation.
Hay gente en línea, pero nada más en este canal y van a estar disponibles para que lo escuchen en inglés y en español.
Sergeant Cordero?
Sargento Cordero,
Would you like to continue?
¿le gustaría continuar? Muchas gracias.
Continuing our recruitment efforts at San Rafael Police Department include
Continuando con nuestros esfuerzos para reclutar en San Rafael, la policía de San Rafael,
include attending job and career fairs,
incluyendo carreras, ferias de carrera y los trabajos.
we also take advantage of our community engagement events.
Además, tenemos ventaja y tomamos ventaja de la congregación de nuestra comunidad y los eventos.
And when it comes to advertising, we have our careers page.
Y acerca de nuestra publicidad, tenemos nuestra página de carreras,
Brochures and handouts.
Panfletos y publicidad.
Pedro, this is Scott. I'm going to interrupt. Could you let her talk for about 2 or 3 sentences, and then you can translate the 2 or 3 sentences, please?
Of course, of course.
Thank you.
And law enforcement magazines. We also utilize our social media platforms. The San Rafael Police Department has an Instagram account, a Facebook account, and a Twitter account.
Go ahead. Además, tenemos la publicidad en nuestras plataformas de social media como Twitter, Instagram y Facebook.
We will advertise our current openings, any hiring opportunities, and the work that we're doing in the community.
Vamos a publicitar nuestras oportunidades de trabajo y la oportunidad de trabajar con nuestra comunidad.
Another recruiting tool that I believe went into effect about a year ago is our hiring incentive. We offer a $25,000 lateral hiring incentive.
Otra herramienta para reclutar es nuestro incentivo para que ofrezcamos $25,000 como incentivo.
And lastly, we just finished our recruitment video project of recent, and unfortunately, due to technical difficulties, we won't be able to play it for you tonight, but it will be getting released soon on our website.
Además, estamos trabajando en nuestro video de reclutamiento, el cual no está listo todavía, pero lo vamos a tener listo pronto.
And that concludes my presentation.
Y eso termina mi presentación.
Thank you so much for your.
Muchas gracias.
So first, are there any questions about Sergeant Condero's presentation by the committee? I'll start again with Ms. Valdez.
¿Hay algunas preguntas acerca de la presentación de la señorita Cordero?
No.
Okay. Ms. Alvarez?
Ms. Álvarez.
I'm not sure what hiring incentive.
Could you say it louder, please?
I don't know what hiring incentives are exactly. Could she further explain more about it?
Can you explain more about what a hiring incentive is?
¿Puede explicar más cuáles son los incentivos para contratar?
It's essentially
Es básicamente
we've created an incentive in an attempt to find experienced officers. It would be like a lateral officer who has previous experience.
Es básicamente la intención de encontrar agentes especializados para cubrir las necesidades.
The incentive that was referenced, again, is only for a lateral officer. It's currently $25,000, but it's dispersed over a 3-year period. Yeah.
So basically a lure to get someone from another department on the same rank.
Yeah, and for the record, we've only offered it once in the almost year that we've had it. There might have, actually, I misspoke. So there was a lateral officer who came to San Rafael and didn't stay very long. So they didn't have that, the tenure, but
So básicamente el incentivo es para oficiales laterales. Esto se otorga nada más una vez y es básicamente para apoyar ciertos proyectos.
Did that answer your question?
¿Eso contesta su pregunta?
Just, sorry, everybody, Pablo, or I'm sorry, Pedro, we have the Spanish line back up and running. So, Pablo is now on the Spanish channel, translating. So we're not consecutive anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so happy that that is repaired. Ms. Member Ruiz, excuse me, do you have any comments or questions?
I don't,
Okay.
but I am learning about how it's to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Vice Chair Takalai?
I do have a questions. On figure 3, because I don't understand the role played by the sheriff department in comparison with the police force. Just by looking at their numbers, like they have 197 compared to, and correct me if I'm wrong, the sheriff department works with the unincorporated area of the county, right? But
That is correct.
is there a way you guys bridge like working together when you come, when you're down by numbers?
yeah, so all of the law enforcement organizations in Marin County have a good working relationship. All of the chief executives meet regularly. Line supervisors from across the county, when in crisis or routine shortages, can call for assistance from an outside jurisdiction. It's basically neighbor helping neighbor, also known as mutual aid. So all of those types of things are readily available. In terms of like long-term assistance, that would be unusual, but like if all of our units that are out in the field right now get tied up and we have an urgent call for service and no one available, there are plenty of resources that we can assist, that can come in and assist, and we would do the same.
Thank you.
Okay. Member any questions at this point of the?
Yes, I'll try to get through them quickly in the interest of time.
Thank you.
We're at 19 minutes left till 8. So I had a little bit of time to go through the policy, and I just want to broaden my knowledge and understanding. I like to take a deep dive and really try to get into the nitty gritty. It helps my brain just formulate. So I'll just reference the policy 1000.3. Establish a written recruitment plan. I've already asked for it with Lieutenant Everly. I was hoping to see it. I hear it's still in development or awaiting a pending approval. And maybe if I just have a comment, I'd like to be involved. And this would be the perfect opportunity for the PAC to be involved in a policy that's being developed. So a little bit of a comment, but I'll move on to the next question. 1000.3B, identification of racially and culturally diverse target markets. So what are the markets we've identified? Like, correct. Identification of racially and culturally diverse target markets.
What have we done as far as recruitment in those target areas?
What have we identified? Like, what are we trying to target?
For us, we want to be more reflective of the community that we serve, and on a certain chart, like I had our race breakdown, we're making progress to being more reflective of our community. But we still have, some room for improvement. So we are getting, as far as our Hispanic, our sworn officers that identify as Hispanic, we are getting closer to bridging that gap and being more reflective of our community. And
So there's also an opportunity for the recruitment team members to identify potential targets for targeted recruitment. An example would be Pride. We might have a booth at Pride Parade. We might have a presence at Latino leaders, a presentation at the Latino leaders lunch, things like that.
Cool.
Women leaders in law enforcement is a highly sought after training opportunity for women in law enforcement. And that would be an area that we would be able to target for recruitment as well. So there are more formal and less formal opportunities to target potential diversity that we're seeking for the organization.
I appreciate that knowledge. So 1003C, use of marketing strategies to target diverse applicants. So our strategy is pretty much social media.
So I think our strategy is really multifaceted. We can pull analytics from our social media and from our website clicks and things like that. But there's also opportunities for example, if we send a crew of recruiters to the county fair or the state fair or the Pride Parade, we can debrief that and kind of measure the level of interest from those that stop by our booth, from those that engaged in conversation, from the follow-up conversations that we have in the wake of those targeted efforts as well.
Okay, thank you. 1000.4.
2 more minutes.
I have 2 more minutes. So the personal records of an applicant with prior peace officer experience in the state shall be requested from the appropriate law enforcement agency. Does another department have to comply?
Mr. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We've lost translation again.
Got it.
But I'm hoping we know how to fix it. Pablo, can you test on the Spanish channel? Okay.
We're having a little bit of a technical difficulty that may happen again, but hopefully we'll
Okay.
resolve it that quickly if it happens again.
Okay, are we on now?
Yes.
Thank you. You may have your other minute and a half.
Reclaiming my time.
I believe I have your question. Yes, they are required to. So an applicant who is coming from another law enforcement organization signs waivers, which basically releases all their training records, all of their personnel evaluations, all of those types of things. And they're required to be submitted to us during our background investigation as we comply with outside requests.
I noted in our own policy, we retain records after separation for 4 years. Is that the standard with other departments? And it seems to me like a window of a get around. I could wait till 5 years. and a record could be destroyed?
So the contemporary, the more contemporary the record, the more effective the record. Different organizations can adopt different retention schedules. Ours is reflected there, but different agencies can do different things, but it is legislated at the minimum.
Okay. Moving on to 1005.4, Penal Code 13680 is the foundation of reporting of hate group activity. I read the penal code and I saw no reference or a definition of who is the arbitrator of the hate group. It's not defined in there. And so I want to know, does San Rafael define a hate group, and what non-government, is it a non-governmental organization like the ACLU, Anti-Defamation League, or are we using a Federal Bureau of Investigation list for hate group? That would be 1005.4.
That's just our review of any potential hate-based organizations or a candidate or a applicant's affiliation with a potential hate-based group.
So I'm going to comment. It feels to me, I feel like we should define that and give it some sort of weight. Otherwise, just reading the code, it's just completely vague.
Part of the background investigation includes questions to the candidate. We review their social media. We can't force them to give us passwords, but we do a review of all their social media platforms to see if there's any indication that they are associated with any hate group, any tattoos that they may have. We take photographs of that as well. I don't know if that's what you're looking for us on top of that, but there is.
Everyone could
That
have
is
their own
part-
definition of a hate
Yeah.
group. And so I'm seeing like, are we using a non-government organization to define that, or a Department of Justice definition? It would be my recommendation to use a non-governmental. One more, since you talked about social media, we can all post things online and immediately remove it. You know, we can direct it, like I want somebody to read that. You know, there's the web.archive.org. Is that part of the background search to look for those going into that Wayback Machine of deleted posts or no longer active accounts? That are we only searching what is actively on their social media account currently posted?
Yeah, we go through, our background investigator will go through with the candidate, full access to the candidate's site. If a candidate is cagey or evasive or doesn't want to share share that kind of information, that's a kind of a bright, shining light to a background investigator or a reviewing chief executive. So those things would require a lot more scrutiny. And if I feel like they're being evasive, they're probably not the character that is appropriate for the San Rafael Police Department. But yes, we do, you know, we'll go into their social media with them present and look at archived, live, but we wouldn't go like 5 years back in WebEx.archive, whatever the site was you talked about.
Web.archive.org, the Wayback Machine. Yes. Well, essentially anything you post is, once you remove it, it's actually not removed. It's always there.
Next.
Mr. Hom, if I could just interject one quick second. We have an 11-page document, policy 319, that does cover hate crimes, and there's definitions of the hate crimes that we can follow. And I encourage you, if you haven't seen it on.
I'm looking for hate group.
In the hate crimes, though, group, it does define some of the hate groups and the biases and the foundations of what would be considered a hate group.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Okay. In the interest of time, I'm going to ask you to ask one more question. Okay. I know you have. the
I got it.
floor.
I got a lot.
I know.
So
I don't wanna cut
background
you off, though.
process,
Stay later?
with respect to the background investigator, they're doing a deep dive, looking at the references and also asking non-references. As a queer man who dealt with gay bullying, are we going to ask their classmates past relationships? How deep do we get into that?
Yeah, I don't know about classmates. It depends on, the age and the, most recent life activity of the candidate. If they're a recent college graduate, probably. If they're mid-career, it might be like 10 years back. But we will knock on your neighbor's door. We will ask your listed references for other potential references that you may or may not know about, that you may or may not, that a candidate, may have not known about. So, the intention is to identify the themes that emerge from these references and ensure that the character, decision-making, judgment, all of those types of things are reflective of the public trust. Cool. All right.
Thank you for.
I'll
your
yield my time.
interest. Okay. Ms. Nguyen, do you have any questions?
I don't
Comments?
see the age, recruits from what age to what age in the processing? Is that?
Are you
minimum-
are you asking what the minimum age
Yeah,
is to
minimum
apply
age.
as a peace officer?
Uh-huh.
At 21 years of age. You have to be turn 21 years of age by appointment date.
Oh.
And
okay.
what's too old?
Oh, no, we don't have a limit.
Okay.
I thought it's 18.
Okay.
I thought at 18. is
Well,
the
we have a
population.
cadet program that would be just perfect for her. Yeah.
Okay, that's my question.
Yeah, 18 years old to be a police cadet. It's a paid part-time position and it's a foot in the door and it's been a great program for us.
Yeah, so that's.
Member Locks?
Yes. Okay, clarification on the 25,000, like in nursing, we have a sign-on bonus of say 5,000 or 6,000. So they would get part of that as soon as they sign on, and then the rest would be over the 3-year period to clarify what an incentive is for the young lady at the end of
Yeah.
the diocese.
The $25,000 lateral hiring incentive gets distributed in 4 increments. So as at sign on, you'll get $5,000. After you complete our field training program, that's another $5,000. Upon successfully completing our field training probationary period, that's another $5,000. After 3 years of service to the San Rafael Police Department, they'll get the remainder $10,000 balance.
Okay, so when you talked about recruiting challenges, and that it takes approximately 6 months for the background check, 6 months for the studies, and then 6 months for something else. You did clarify at one point that you were paying. Are they being paid for during those times?
Yes, so when we hire a police recruit and sponsor them to go through the police academy, they are getting paid
Okay, that was.
at a police recruit
Yeah,
rate
yeah.
throughout the academy. Again, our hiring process has we've been able to slim that down to about, it could be a couple of months, during my time, it was 6 months. But that's 5 months of a police academy and another 5 months. Once they graduate from the police academy, become a sworn peace officer, then they will get promote to a higher salary.
Okay, you mentioned some standards and that you were unable to lower the standards, but are you able to modify the standards, which is not necessarily lowering the standard? A modification could be, well, let's say I was a skinhead when I was 18, but now I'm 35 and I haven't done that for umpty-ump years. Because I was a skinhead, I'm always a skinhead? Or whatever the negative criteria is. You know what I'm saying? I'm not just threw that out there.
So I would say affiliation or previous affiliation with a hate-based organization. If there's a significant amount of time and distance and no longer is there an affiliation or a lifestyle that is, gives any indication so the buck stops with the chief. That's a judgment call that I'm going to make. The post establishes minimum standards and we can't go lower than that.
Gotcha.
But we could have whatever standards above that that we want,
Okay.
that we
excellent.
deem fit and appropriate for the San Rafael
Okay.
community.
And then as far as recruitment, I'm looking at the African American, one of anything is not acceptable to me. I don't care what the percentage is in a neighborhood. One of anything is not acceptable. Also, two of anything is not acceptable. So I would say you need to up your ante in recruiting African Americans and Asians to our police department. And go wherever in the county. They're all over the county. You don't have to stick to the local environment.
You are correct. We do attend events outside of our county. We go to the East Bay. We were actually at a diversity employment day last year. We do go to Marin City. We do reach out to outside counties and areas, Cal State, East Bay. So we are making efforts, but I don't disagree. I would like to see those numbers increase.
And when you make those recruitment efforts, your audience may be an audience of resistance, let's say. How do you bridge that when you're interfacing with folks? What do you do to meet that divide?
I think that's where kind of got brought up earlier, where we humanize or try to humanize the badge, get to know the person, have them get to know us personally, take away the uniform. Sometimes we go to events in uniform because I think it looks professional, but other times we go in
Civilian.
sometimes, yes, ma'am.
No, civilian.
It's
yes.
less intimidating. People are more
Yes.
approachable.
Yes.
We engage in conversation. And that's what's worked for me when I'm out there on the recruitment team. We tend to get quite a lot of bit of foot traffic at our booths. We're very engaging. So I'm hoping, I see that working.
Okay, last question. Okay,
Yeah.
can I go on? Translation, are you caught up? Yeah, can I go on?
Yes.
The last would be, and I think I just lost it in the middle of it. You know how the road track gets derailed? Damn. I lost it. You can't, you really can't multitask.
That's
Every
okay.
second. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. So now is the time to ask if there's a public comment on the presentation. I have a clock.
Again, Steve Bingham, Tara Linda, and I'll be very quick because everyone wants to go home, but,
Right.
and it's a question I'd like to hear addressed at some point. There's a lot of discussion about the difficulty of recruiting people, and I've read in several different places that police departments are having to sort of reduce somewhat the standards that they have to recruit people. You're in between a rock and a hard place because you're lacking 10 officers and you're the gatekeeper preventing people from being hired who want to hire, and you're maybe making a decision that they don't cut it. So it's a difficult job. And I'm not saying it happens here, but I know that in police departments elsewhere that I read about, there's a tendency to fill those positions with people who are less qualified than what you would really like to see if you had applicants sort of banging on the door to get in. And I'm just interested if it's possible that they could comment on that in terms of how you approach that dilemma. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Anyone? Oh.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to thank Committee Member Alm for asking some questions that I had here. And thank you for the presentation. Again, I think it doesn't help to hire people into a culture that allowed what to happen to Julio Menos Lopez to happen. So I'm very interested in hearing how is the police department addressing culture change? Because if we're just bringing diverse people in to assimilate to the current culture, we're going to get the same problems that we have now. And so I have the same question, would like to see the written recruitment plan. I noticed that the recruitment policy was updated on February 1st of this year. And then the one posted online is from November of 2019. I think it would be helpful to know like what changes were made. It looks to me like changes were made based on SB2, which is decertification, and also AB 655, the California Law Enforcement Accountability Reform Act, that asks for changes as of September of 2022. 2019's posted. This month is here for this one. So I think there are questions to be asked. I would suggest Southern Poverty Law Center's definition of hate groups be incorporated. I think that's a really important thing. And I just would also like to know, Sergeant Cordero, you talked about the FTO program, and we know that Brandon Nail was an FTO. He's one of the officers involved in the brutal beating. We know that Daisy Mazariegos is from the community. She looks like the community. She's diverse. She's bicultural. That she was recently off the FTO program, and that Corporal Ocon testified in court that he supports escalating as a de-escalation tactic. So we really need to look into the FTO program and also make some changes there, because that's where everyone's learning what San Rafael's culture is. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Guys should line up so you're not taking so much walking time.
Good evening.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Sí, sobre lo que dijo Jairi, yo creo que es importante tomar eso en cuenta de por qué es difícil la contratación de nuevos oficiales. Y yo creo que tiene que ver mucho con la cultura del departamento de policía. Yo creo que hay que enfocarse en eso, si realmente ha cambiado eso, cómo es que se puede realmente hacerlo más complejo para que la gente se sienta más acogido por el departamento de policía. Gracias.
So basically, I was wondering if the process for recruiting could be more attractive to other people, so the other people in society feels comfortable with the police department.
Thank you. I see no other members of the public wanting to comment. We'll close public comment. And does staff have any thing they want to say in regard to the questions from the?
So I will defer to my colleagues regarding the other items, but I will say that we do have a plan to bring back the recruitment plan. It is being prepared, and so it's in editing, and so it's we will bring that back. I don't have an exact time as to when we will bring it back, but we do have intention to bring back the recruitment plan as a subsequent report. So I did want to clarify that. And I do see my colleague, Lieutenant Eberly, he's looking frantically at the printing dates. And so I don't know if he'll have a comment regarding that now, but I do know that he's looking into that. And I'll defer to Chief Spiller if he has any other comments as well.
Just in regards to the comment on the Lexipol policy on the recruitment, we have updated it numerous times since 2019. Every time there's a new law or something that comes up, it does get updated.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do any of the members of the, and I'm just going to ask in general if anybody has a comment to make about the presentation, and if so, I will call upon you. No. Well, please.
No comment.
No, okay. Member Alvarez? No comment. Member Ruiz?
mí sí me gustaría que... Oh, sorry. A mí sí me gustaría que en realidad ustedes investigaran realmente la vida de cada oficial que va a entrar a la policía, cada persona, cómo fue en la escuela, cómo fue con sus vecinos, para que cuando nos ayuden a nosotros, a la comunidad, no vayan a tener algún problema en el pasado ellos y ustedes no lo conocieron. Que no sea una persona que es de carácter muy impulsivo, a eso me refiero. Sí me gustaría a mí que ustedes de verdad investigaran bien el tipo de persona que ustedes van a contratar para que nosotros tengamos una mejor experiencia cuando hablemos o tratemos con un policía. Realmente a mí eso sí me gustaría como vecina del canal. Gracias.
I would like you to investigate deeply in each applicant, because as a society, we want to make sure that the officer is a good person without any issues in the past. So that's why I would like to know more and make sure you guys investigate deeply for each candidate.
Thank you. Vice Chair?
No, I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. You know, like myself, I'm going to go back and read a lot about this, especially the penal codes, because that's more details. Just my other comments is while we're working on, because I know everything is a process, you guys are working on the recruitment policies, we're changing things as we move along with consultations with different groups and bringing in community versions of it, I'm also wanted to, I don't know, it's more like a challenge or encourage the communities. And if you are listening in, I know like we're looking at figure 4 with the ratio, the African American is low, the Asian communities is low. I kind of like personally challenge people to apply, it's like applying for a job. I know the process is long and the recruitment policies is tough. It's really tough to get through that phase to the next phase. Good job. But you got to make sure you get through the first phase, the policies. And yes, we're here, we're working with the communities. And I also encourage the communities to we want to see, I personally want to thank these guys because they're here every single meetings. But I also wanted to encourage other groups. If you are listening in and watching us, please come up. Join us on the next one. Bring your voice in. 3 people or 4 people does not represent the whole of Centerville. If you want to be part of this, if you want this to hear your concerns, you either send us questions to Scott or join us in the live meetings. Please, please. We're all working as a team here. This is how I look at it. We're not going to solve this one-sided. If you want to solve something, come to the table.
Apply for the job.
Apply for jobs, just like applying for regular jobs. Everything is not easy. Every single job have a criteria. We all going through that, and whether you hired or not, we moved on to the next one. That's life. But thank you for the presentation. I'm going to take this back. I'm going to read more about it. But I also want to go back to the community and challenge people to apply. Go for it. And join us in our next meetings. We want to hear your concerns and your opinions. It's not just us here. But I want to thank these folks who are here all the time, but I also want to see those seats filled with other members of Centerville. Centerville is not just 3 people. This is not just Centerville. Centerville, there's a lot of people here in Centerville. Please. So thank you.
Thank you for posing the challenge. We'll include that in our recruitment efforts.
Member Alm?
I share your thoughts, Vice Chair. I also challenge us as a PAC to get involved. I really see us being that representative of the community and being like, I see a role for us to be involved in that recruitment process. Make yourself available to serve on those oral boards. I appreciate that. I learned a lot. I'm still learning from that and hope to broaden my knowledge. It was very enlightening. I will share that during those oral boards, I think our first group, we only passed on 1. And I learned that eventually through their history, they were eventually declined. The second oral board I participated in, we only passed 2. Hopefully they're moving along in the process, knock on wood. It's tough. I'll give a comment then bluntly, the candidates that came before us, the majority that we didn't approve to go forward were not a good member of our that I want to see in our police force. And I think it's important that we as a PAC get involved in that. And I appreciate that opportunity. Thank you.
Member Nguyen, do you have any comments about the presentation?
Well, I don't have any commendation, just he says about the Somerville 3 people. I have some friend want to attend for the public comment, but the time and the day is not convenient for them to attend. So, if we can in the futures, maybe change the time or the date a little early so that I can have a friend in a neighbor to can attend us.
That's a thought.
That's what I thought.
Member Locks? Any comments?
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion that we receive the report as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second to accept to the motion to accept the report as presented? Okay. I will ask Lieutenant Eberly to take the vote.
Thank you. Member Alm?
Approve.
Member Alvarez?
Approved.
Member Locks?
Approve.
Member Kamina?
Approve.
Member Nguyen?
Approve.
Member Ruiz?
Approve.
Member Tokalahi?
So the motion is passed. Thank you, and thank you for your time. We appreciate it very much. The next item on the agenda is any updates or reports, meeting, conferences, or seminars attended by staff. Anybody want to make a comment?
No, we have no reports.
Okay, thank you. So now is the time also for committee reports. Member Valdez, do you want to make a report about anything you've done in regard to this committee in the past month since we met?
Not about this committee, but I attended the event, the King Tides on February. It's about the sea levels. And for me, it was like really eye-opening because we were able to compare the difference between like 3 weeks previous the event, how the level was high. So that's, yeah. And I also participate with Darlene in a community, like 6 leaders from the community. And they told us that they are really worried because prostitution is increasing in the canal area. And also, we don't know like the specifics, but someone like complaining that when they called the police, it was like not the service that they needed to receive in that moment. Yeah.
Thank you. Member Alvarez? do you have any updates on what you might have participated in with regard to the committee in the last month?
I haven't participated in certain events or groups, but I have been researching about this and
Perfect.
the laws, yeah.
Thank you so much. Member Ruiz, I understand you were at the same meeting.
Yo he estado, yo he estado en reuniones con Carla y estos líderes tienen una pregunta, por ejemplo, ¿qué procede después que alguien fue agredido, un tipo racismo, y ellos hacen la demanda? ¿Qué prosigue después de esta demanda? Es la pregunta que tienen estos líderes que tuvimos reunidos con ellos.
I had meetings with Carla in regards to a situation where it was kind of racism or racist action. So how does that proceed after they present the complaint at the police department?
Not. Maybe that question can be answered at the next meeting? Or can staff answer it now?
We can follow up offline. I mean, depending on, I'm not sure what the nature of
Right.
the situation was, but we can certainly follow up offline about that and regarding the specific incident.
Perfect.
Podemos darle seguimiento después de que esto termine para darle seguimiento y saber más detalles de esa situación.
Thank you, Pedro. Just interpret from Spanish to English on this channel.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a few. I'm also a board member in the Marine Interfaith, representing the Baha'i faith communities here in San Rafael. And we've discussed this. I brought it up. And this is something that we wanted to explore more about it. I wanted the sort of like the faith-based communities to be a pillar on this. Working with different communities, sort of like encourage people, the spiritual working together, changing narratives by building trust, as she mentioned in her presentation. It's all these different elements together, just trying to build a vibrant community where we all connected by communicating to each other in that level. And that's something we work with. I know we can't solve everything, but it's one pillar of the communities. If that works well, hopefully the other pillars will support that foundation. I'm also in my social life, I play rugby, so I've been doing a lot of recruitment with the college boys who's coming back to Marin. They're born and raised here. They went out college, now they're back. They don't have anything to do rather than a job and playing rugby, just have fun. So I'm getting the word out, but I also direct them to your website for real, informations. And then in our communities, just pushing this working together, bringing that life out of everyone is if we want to build a vibrant community, we have to come out of our little comfort zone, come out of our little boxes and then talk to your neighbors. We have neighbors, and trust me, some neighbors, we don't talk to each other, right? We're right next door, but we don't talk to each other. And that's one thing, I've in my line of work, when I'm out, I talk to people of different races. I'm Pacific Islanders, I fit in with the Latinos because they call me Pescatito, I'm the smallest Tongan, I fit in everywhere. So but those are some of the stuff that I do on my, on the sides, just helping to build to bring this work to our communities too. So.
Thank you so much. Member Alm?
I do have some updates to provide.
Perfect.
First, I want to thank Angela and Scott. I invited them to meet with me separately. We got to get to know each other. I encourage all my PAC members to get to know your liaisons too and build a working relationship. I think it's very important. I also want to mention that Member Locks and I have met separately, and I appreciate that we were able to have a conversation to get to know each other. I know we've had a few lessons on the Brown Act, but we don't have to discuss the topics of going on here, and it was good for us to get to know each other. And thank you. I also met with Marina Palma, and I wanted to just set up a walk around through the Canal neighborhood. And luckily, just by events, it turned into a community meeting at a dining room table for about an hour and a half with leaders at the 400 Canal complex. And they shared with me their concerns, and I'll kind of just go over some of their high level. Essentially, what they want to say to San Rafael PD is like, where are you? Just no visibility in Canal. Vandalism is their constant fear. Traffic patrol is non-existent in their mind's eye. Speeding is rampant. Intersections, stop signs are a suggestion. Pedestrian safety, crosswalks are just completely ignored. I visually saw that in action. Responsiveness to call, slow. Community feels unprioritized. Community is often put in situations of self-policing. I'm concerned. I don't like to hear that. Inebriated persons involved in traffic accidents are being detained by community members until PD shows up. Violent altercations, many are often unreported. The community is often intervening themselves to disperse it. SRPD, the other comment, essentially just high level, not listening. Community has shared their concerns numerous times, meaning many have happened, and community provides solutions. They offer things like speed bumps. They want more cameras, and it just seems like there's a lot of obstacles to making that happen. They just feels like they're giving tacit responses, and there's just no follow-up, no action. I appreciate being able to get out there. I invite anyone in the community who wants to meet with me. I'm trying to do the annual meeting circuit in all the neighborhoods and just showing up to it, inserting myself, just trying to bring up conversations. I'm a member of the Federation of San Rafael Neighborhoods. We are having our annual meeting this Sunday. Please come out to that. It's open to all. It's actually going to be a wonderful musical event, just to be lighthearted. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I so far don't have any comment for this time.
Okay. Member Locks, other than having coffee with Member Alm, do you have anything, which is a great thing?
That was really nice because I think that members of our committee misinterpreted some of the Brown Act discussion, and we can meet with each other as long as it's not a quorum and we're not talking business.
Correct.
We can talk about hamburgers or tea, or I had soup and he had tea. And we talked about what we did in other spaces. But that's a way of getting to know each other and to feel comfortable with each other. And I'm going to start doing something with that 17-year-old long lady down there. Maybe we can go to the roller rink or something. That's what I want to do. Anyway, but at this time, this is where the staff, I've been communicating with staff and have met with staff about how to have these meetings be a little bit more efficient, since we have to rely upon some time for translation, which does take up time. And I will pause. And so, so one of the things going forward, as I've looked at I have fully read the goals and objectives of the city for 2023 to 2025. I have fully read the Rosenberg's Rules of Order. I have fully read the board's Commissions and Committees Rules and Procedures, and I have fully read the Ralph M. Brown Act. So, having said that, one of my recommendations going forward is that we do have the agenda as an item that we, as a group, agree to, and that is also referenced in the board's, the BCC. That is referenced in the BCC, that there should be agreement amongst the body of the agenda. And as I looked at other agendas of other committees of City of San Rafael, they do have an item that's for new business. And so I would like for the discussion that I would like to have a new business item for next month, in which I will bring up some new business that I would like to discuss. So that's my report. And I'm going to continue to work on getting to know the members of this committee, getting to know my police officers, and making that we both are being efficient in spending our time here, that our time is spent, wisely and not with so many bumps. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will let staff address whether we can have the new business agenda.
Thank you. So, so for new business, so every agenda has new business on it. So, if you would allow me to continue. So the new business, for example, today, the new business was the recruitment and selection. City commissions within San Rafael generally don't label it as new business. They just list the agenda item in terms of whether it's a special presentation or other agenda item. So it is new business, but it's not labeled as such. In terms of old business, things that are continued are what we would consider, what you might consider old business. In terms of the, I don't want to belabor this too much because it's getting late in the evening. But the other thing I wanted to mention as well, in terms of the board and commission handbook, I would encourage everyone to look at that, and it describes what the agenda setting process is, and it doesn't include a section that says that the agenda is affirmed at the meeting. It talks about the staff process and a process by which a committee member can make recommendations to the agenda. As Lieutenant Eberly already pointed out, we do have a work plan. And so when we return back in April, there'll be opportunities to add items. But if you recall back at the last meeting, you actually looked at what the future agenda items were and you projected that out. So that was the opportunity right there where the committee provided input into setting the agenda. So if, again, we'll do that again in April or May, but there was an opportunity and there was robust discussion about the organization of the agenda items, as well as what were the areas of community concern.
And my understanding is that if any member of this committee
Lo que entiendo es
I
todos los miembros de
apologize.
este
We're going to switch.
Oh.
Give me one quick second.
Sorry.
I tried to get in there in between you guys. I apologize. If Pedro, you can give me or Pablo, when you give me a text when you're on. Okay, we're good to go.
Okay, thank you. I was just going to say that if any member of the committee has a suggestion for something to be put on the agenda, to let staff know in advance so that it can be published as need be. No, I'm done. That's fine. Actually, to let you know what I've done, in sake of time, I'm going to skip a few things, but I do want to say that I'm on the steering committee of the Marin Coalition to End Human Trafficking. And as part of that, I met Joanne Simonini from the Canal Alliance. She's the immigration specialist. So she and I are going to meet in March, and I thought it would be good to talk about this. But in response to the question about the prostitution that might be going on Canal, please let us know about that, and we'd be happy to tell Scott about it. So thank you for the committee reports. Now is the time for public comment, open time. And for 2 minutes each.
Okay, it's just us between everyone and bedtime. So I just want to remind us again that community has spoken out, a lot of community members, other than the ones of us who have some privilege and can make it here at this time at night. They want transparency, accountability, and trust. And I think, as I have mentioned before, and other members have mentioned, appointing a previous chief law enforcement official to be on the committee and to be the chair kind of erodes that trust from the start. She is currently a cold case investigator for the Marin County Sheriff's Office per her resume that she submitted here. She's also done that for this police department. She served as the president of the Marin County Police Chiefs Group. So I think those are all concerns that we've had, and we would like that to be worked into the bylaws, that if there is someone from former law enforcement, they shouldn't be the chief, they shouldn't be the chair or co-chair. I also forgot to say on the previous thing about the data for diversity of the police force, rather than just looking at how it matches up to demographics of San Rafael, I would encourage this committee to ask for it also to be matched up to demographics of victims, to be matched up to demographics of who's arrested and who the police have contact with, because we know the force is overwhelmingly white, but the people who are coming in contact with law enforcement, who are going into the school to prison pipeline or the poverty to prison pipeline, are not mostly white. So there is a distinction there that I encourage you all to look deeper into. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, seeing no other member of the public wanting to comment, we'll close the public comment period, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your time. And I'm so sorry.